the Resident Evil series has always been very deliberate in terms of the way the character moves and the way the character is in action. So if you go all the way back to the first Resident Evil on PlayStation 1, the character was not ever able to move and shoot. And that was a very deliberate design decision. The idea of the Resident Evil series is you have to have a trade-off between the action portion and surviving, which leads into the whole survival horror nature of the game. So you can't just run and gun. That would completely change the face of the Resident Evil series. At that point, that would turn it more into Lost Planet, Gears of War, something like that. So with the Resident Evil series, there's always sort of a trade-off. If you're going to stop and take shots at some of the bad guys, some of the other bad guys may be coming up behind you. So it's a very deliberate design perspective, and it's not something we're going to be changing or patching in. What we have done, however, is we've offered new control schemes. For the first time in the Resident Evil series, players can actually choose how they want to play the game. You can actually go with classic Resident Evil control scheme, which has been almost unaltered since the very first Resident Evil game, or it can go more for more of a modern day kind of 3D action perspective, where you're able to strafe and move around. Still, even with the modern controls, you're not going to be moving and shooting at the same time, but characters who are more familiar and more comfortable with kind of like dual analog 3D movement are probably going to enjoy the action controls more than the traditional Resident Evil style. But we know there are a lot of fans of the original Resident Evil game, so we really wanted to make it user choice and leave it up to them instead of forcing something on people. The AI in the single player game is pretty good, but of course, no matter how good you are with programming, a computer controlled ally is never going to be as much fun to play with as another human being. And Resident Evil 5 is really designed to be a game that's played with another person. Whether you're playing split-screen co-op in your own living room, or you're connecting via PlayStation Network or Xbox Live and hooking up with other people on the internet. Yeah, the AI is going to be there. It feels pretty good. Like if you're on your own, Sheva is going to know how to provide backup. We'll give you ammo if you run low on ammo. We'll heal you. We'll kind of get your back to a certain extent. But nothing is ever going to take the place of having another living, breathing person helping you out. And it's also a lot easier to swear at somebody on a headset than it is to just yell at your Xbox. We have seen in a couple of the latest trailers, we have seen images of Chris Redfield kneeling in front of Jill Valentine's grave. And that's actually been part of the latest ad campaign in Japan. Has actually shown Jill's tombstone with her birth and her death dates on there. So we'll have to see exactly how that happened, and that's all revealed about midway through Resident Evil 5. US demo is coming soon. We're actually going to have an announcement about that relatively quickly, probably coming within the next week or so. We'll be letting folks know, but we know there are a lot of gamers out there who have been really champing at the bit to get their hands on it. So we want to make sure that we get it out in the right time frame when people are really ready to get it. So we're kind of banging the drum right now, and probably in another week or two, we'll be letting people know when they're going to get their hands on the demo.